Hello everyone, Vic here, and I'm sharing with you today a process video for Peartree Cutfiles, and I am using one of the February releases for this layout, and as you can see, it is absolutely stunning. It's the roses background cut file, and the detail in it is just beautiful. When I saw this this cut file, I just could not wait to get started with it. Cut files like this, they're just so versatile. Like, you could use it on top of a layout, but you could use it how I am on my layout here as a stencil to create your own background. So many ideas were whizzing through my head, and it did take me a while to decide whether I was going to back it or ink it up and leave it on the layout, but I decided that I would use it as a stencil so that I could scrap this really lovely photograph of my daughter from back in 2014. Now, if you haven't headed over to the Peartree Cutfile website, please do. Marie has covered all bases, so we know that not everybody has a cutting machine at home. They're quite an investment. So she does also cater for those of you that don't own one, and you can purchase pre-cut cut files from her. So really worth going over and having a look. There are some fabulous ones there, and every month she releases so many new ones, so there's something for everyone. So please do head on over. I will leave the link in my bio below. So as I said, I'm using this cut file as a stencil. Oh, and excuse if you keep seeing little bits popping in at the top of my video there. That's my cat Biscuit. He likes to sit under my tripod and try and help me with my crafting. He thinks he's being really helpful, but he's not. So I'm using Distress Oxide inks to create my background here, and I'm using makeup brushes to do this. It just makes the application of those inks so much easier and just really smooth, and you can like apply them really evenly. So I wanted to create a bit of depth and dimension to the florals of that cut file that I'm stenciling. So I've started off using Spun Sugar, Distress Oxide ink, and then I've used some Pick Raspberry and then Seedless Preserves for in the middle, and it just gives a really pretty effect. And as you can see, I'm just sort of testing my colours on odd bits of card that I had, just to make sure that I was happy with those colours. And then the beauty of those makeup brushes I was talking about for applying your Distress Oxide inks is that the heads are all different sizes. So the small ones are perfect for applying ink in those intricate areas. So I've used that to apply some of the leaves on the cut file, and the colour of Distress Oxide ink I've used for that was Bundled Sage. So I've removed that cut file now, and you can see how beautiful that is. Oh, it's stunning. It's so clean but fresh looking, and I was so pleased with how well it came out. And I wasn't sure whether to leave it like this or whether to put the cut file back on top, because I do like the texture that a cut file gives on top of your layout. Just adds that little extra bit of interest and depth to your layouts. But I decided that no, I would stick with just the stenciling for this, because it is just so super pretty. And then I've kept that bit of cut file for use on another layout, because it's just too pretty with the inks in certain areas on it to throw away. So always make use of what you have. Now the collection that I'm using here, it goes perfectly with those Distress Oxide ink colours that I picked. And it was a 2020 release by Pink Paisley, 5th and Monaco. It was one of my favourite collections to create with last year, and I got this collection from Lottie Loves Paper. I really used so much of it, but I didn't want to throw away my little scraps of paper that I had left, and I'm so pleased I didn't now, because there's so much that you can do with scraps of paper. As you can see, I've mounted my picture on some of the darker floral paper, but I wanted to fussy cut some of the florals for my page. So what I've done is I've actually gutted that bit of pattern paper before backing my photograph, because you wouldn't know that there's holes behind it. So that's a really, really good way of being really savvy with your stash. And also, like, I'm creating now some extra dimension on my layout by giving the illusion that there's loads of pieces of paper backed behind my photograph there, but it is literally, as you can see, just strips of paper. So it's a brilliant use for using up your branding strips at the bottom of pages, or just any leftover bits that you might have after using a collection. So those little bits of paper that I've used to layer behind my photograph, I've just used my scissors around the edge of them just to add a little bit of a distressed edge to everything, and that just helps soften it, because the stencil background I created there was so soft and delicate. I didn't want really harsh lines. So originally, when I was thinking about doing this layout, the photograph was going to be in the centre of my layout. But once I'd created that background, I wasn't quite sure, because the photograph then would have covered up quite a lot of my stenciling and would have left quite a lot of white space in that bottom left and right hand corner. So what I've done is I've just moved that photograph down to the bottom corner so that I can show off the stenciling and that pretty background. And that then also helps balance out, in my mind, it's more aesthetically pleasing with the diagonal of those floral stencils going across the page. And then to balance it out, what I've done is just create a tiny little embellishment cluster up the top right hand corner of the page, and that just balances out all that busyness on the bottom left. So I'm happy where everything is now. Sticking things down and committing to it. So I've raised up onto foam pads just to add a little bit of extra dimension again. The more layers you create and that extra bit of depth that you create can make all the difference to your layout, rather than everything being flat. I know they go into your pages go into page protectors afterwards, but you still can see the dimension if you use foam pads and things to raise everything up through those page protectors. So I had quite a lot of the gold words from the collection that I'm using here left over. I don't tend to use a lot of gold on my pages, so I had a quick flick through those to try and find a title. And with the flowers being there, I was thinking of maybe having like Blooming Beautiful or something, but the Love You just sort of popped off for me, and I really liked how it looked against the striking colours of the collection and my background that I'd made. Now, a little tip for you: what I do with these, with any sticker words or just like puffy stickers and things, I always cut around them on the acetate before I commit to using them on my page. That way you can put them on your page and move them around quite freely. They tend to be super sticky, so if you put them on your layout straight away or your work, they can stick to your papers and your background cardstock and be a bit tricky to take off, and more often than not you get rips in your paper. So that's just a little tip for you that I always do. And then once I'm happy, then you can obviously just take them off and put them on. And then off camera later, I do use my sewing machine to run through a couple of lines of stitching onto those words just to help hold them all into place, and again add another little bit of texture to my layout. My page is almost finished now. Just making the use of some of the stickers from the collection. Wanted to keep those butterflies looking a bit more 3D, so just popped some little bits of foam underneath their wings so that they don't stick flat to the layout, and building up that embellishment cluster up the top right hand side. I did at the end decide that there was too much white space in that top corner for my liking, so I did carefully place my cut file back over that area and add some more stenciling with the inks. So thank you very much for watching along with me today. I really appreciate you stopping by. Please give it a thumbs up if you've liked my video. Any comments or subscribe would be much appreciated. And head on over to the Peartree Cutfiles website and have a look at all the fantastic cut files there, both digital and pre-cut. Thanks then, bye.